On this section, we're going to be replacing the turbocharger. Now, there's several reasons for replacing the turbocharger. One of which is you could be having an engine that has a problem with blue smoke. Blue smoke meaning, of course, it's burning oil, indicating that you've lost a seal in the turbo. Other reasons could be black smoke at the exhaust, again indicating that the turbocharger is not compressing air like it's supposed to into the engine. And of course, we could be having a problem with lack of power, again indicating a defective turbocharger. Replacing the turbocharger actually is a fairly straightforward operation. We're going to have to remove the intake bellows, the exhaust pipe on this side, and removing then, of course, the turbo from the exhaust manifold and from the intake manifold. One of the things that we're going to want to take a look at too as we're removing the intake manifold is there any oil in the intake manifold? It should be actually fairly dry. Any oil in there indicates also that the turbocharger seal has failed. Let's get started. The operation we're following here is going to be the same on most turbochargers. However, you may find that you have to remove covers, wires, hoses, or other things that are covering up the turbo so that you can get to the bolts, nuts, etc. As you pull some of the bolts out, especially on the oil feed and the oil drain, you may get some oil draining out, so it would be helpful to have a rag or absorbent towel ready to catch any oil that leaks out so it doesn't get all over the place, causing a mess, or worse, getting into the electrical components. Naturally, on this job or any job, as you're swinging the ratchet back and forth, make sure you don't swing the ratchet into anything that's electrical. It's a good idea to disconnect the batteries so that no matter what you hit on here, you're not going to get any arcing or sparking. Okay, some of these bolts may be fairly tight, so you may have to use a breaker bar. And she's off. And we're going to take this over to the bench and do some butt checking on it. Again, as we stated earlier, one of the things we want to check here is to see if we've got any excessive amounts of oil in the passage between the turbine and the intake manifold or to the aftercooler. In this particular case, it looks quite clean inside here, so we're looking good. Other things that you're going to want to take a look at are axial, which is up and down play of the blades in here of the turbine and the shaft, and radial, which is back and forth play of the shaft in here. Also, take a look at the very ends of the turbine blades. As you can see here, there's a little bit of chewing right on the end of here, so something has gotten in here. Fortunately, it doesn't look like it's done too much damage. If anything such as a nut, bolt, or any foreign object gets in here, with this thing spinning at 100,000 RPM, a lot of damage can be done in a very, very short period of time. And this one, we're in pretty decent shape. Also, the radial and axial play feel quite good. Again, if you've got the ability to use a dial indicator on them, you're looking at, again, this will be in the manufacturer's service manual, but you're looking at somewhere between approximately 3 to 7 thousandths of an inch on the radial and approximately 2 to 4 thousandths of an inch on axial. Another thing you might want to do when you put the turbocharger back on is make sure to lube the studs or the bolts, whichever your particular unit happens to have, with Antiseeze. By coating the bolts with Antiseeze, it prevents the bolts from corroding, so the next time you have to take the turbocharger off, you'll be able to get it off. When putting the gasket back on, this gasket goes on dry. You don't need any sealant with it. Just fits right on there. Turbocharger comes up. comes right on. Securing the turbocharger with at least one nut so we don't drop it on the ground. Next thing we're going to do while everything is still accessible is hook up our oil return line. It's beneath the turbocharger. And naturally, the turbocharger, like all other components, has to be torqued properly. In this particular case, the proper torque is 50 foot-pounds. Naturally, your torque may vary depending upon the engine that you're working on. Next goes the exhaust. Another thing to do, whether the turbocharger is a new turbocharger or whether the turbo's been removed and disassembled or whatever has been done to it, it's always a good idea to lube the turbocharger before putting it back into service. Again, anytime the engine starts, the turbocharger immediately comes up to some very, very high speeds and we don't want to start it up dry. So taking normal engine oil and injecting engine oil into the oil inlet port of the turbo center housing is all you need to do. Again, a couple of squeezes from the oil can and you're good to go. Well, we've got the turbocharger installed now. Again, turbocharger maintenance is only necessary when either the turbocharger fails or if they have a certain life expectancy number of hours and that time comes up and you want to replace them. Other than that, start the engine up and check very, very carefully for leaks and away you go.